The wind howled through the twisted trees of the forest, carrying with it a chill that made Leora pull her cloak tight around her shoulders. She had lived at the edge of these woods for years, far from the gossiping villages and their narrow minds. Her home was small, built from timber and stone, surrounded by herbs and flowers that swayed even in the cold night air. Leora was a healer, and her hands, gentle and steady, could mend wounds that others deemed hopeless. Yet nothing in her life had prepared her for what she would find that night. Rain came suddenly, a heavy curtain that beat against the roof and made the forest look like a world of shadows. Leora was kneeling over a batch of tinctures, her fingers deftly stirring a mixture of crushed leaves and honey, when a noise reached her ears, a soft whimper, almost drowned by the rain. She froze, listening. It came again, closer now, something alive, struggling in the darkness. Heart pounding, she grabbed her lantern and stepped outside. The wind ripped at her cloak, but she pressed forward, drawn by a mix of curiosity and fear. There, at the edge of her clearing, huddled beneath a fallen branch, was a creature that made her gasp. It was a wolf, massive and sleek, but something was wrong. Its fur was matted with mud and blood, and its eyes, they were clouded, pale like fog over a frozen lake. Blind, the creature shivered, its chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. Leora's fear battled with instinctive compassion. She had read of wounded animals before, but something about this wolf felt different, smarter, older, almost human in its suffering. "SHH, it's all right," she whispered, kneeling carefully in the mud. The wolf flinched, ears twitching, but it did not run. It seemed to sense her intent, some silent communication passing between them. "I won't hurt you," she continued softly, reaching out her hand. Her fingers brushed the coarse fur. The wolf growled low, a deep sound that vibrated through her chest, yet it did not strike. She could see the pain etched into every line of its body, the raw fear and the exhaustion. "I can help you," she said, pulling her lantern closer. "But you have to let me." The wolf's ears flattened, and for a heartbeat, she thought it might flee. But instead, it lowered its head, exposing a deep gash along its side. Leora's heart clenched. Without a second thought, she gathered her herbs, bandages, and poultices and began to work. She murmured softly, her voice a steady rhythm to calm both herself and the animal. Hours passed. The storm did not abate, but Leora's small fire glowed warm in the center of the hut, and the wolf lay on a thick blanket she had made from old furs. She cleaned the wound, applying salves and wrapping it with careful hands. The wolf whimpered occasionally, but it remained still, watching her with a strange intensity. When the rain finally eased, Leora sat back on her heels, exhausted. She studied the creature. Its blindness was evident, pale eyes staring unseeingly, but there was intelligence there, a depth that chilled and fascinated her. "What happened to you?" she whispered. "Who hurt you?" The wolf did not answer, of course, but that night, as she slept by the hearth, she thought she heard a voice, soft, like the rustle of leaves, speaking her name. "Leora," it murmured, and she woke with a start, heart racing. The creature was at the edge of the blanket, head raised, sniffing the air. Its eyes glowed faintly in the firelight, a golden hue that vanished when she blinked. She stared, unsure if it was a trick of the shadows or something more. Days passed, and Leora's routine became intertwined with the wolf's recovery. She named him Ashar, after a word from the old tongue meaning strength and shadow. Ashar grew stronger each day, but the mystery of his presence deepened. Sometimes he would sit by the window, listening to voices in the forest she could not hear. Other times, he would tilt his head toward her, as if understanding not just her words, but her very thoughts. The villagers began to whisper, "A witch living with a beast," they muttered. From a distance, Leora ignored them. She had never sought approval, and she was not about to start now. Ashar's presence was dangerous, yes, but also magnetic. She found herself talking to him as if he were human, and in return, she often caught him watching her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. One evening, after a long day of tending his wound and feeding him from her hand, Leora fell asleep in her chair. The fire had burned low, casting flickering shadows across the room. She dreamt of a man, tall and cloaked in darkness, his eyes, golden and piercing, walking through the forest with a grace that made the air itself hold its breath. He stopped at her side, silent but commanding, and extended a hand. Leora. The voice came again. Deeper now, vibrating through her chest, she awoke with a gasp, the dream still lingering like smoke. Ashar sat nearby, head tilted, eyes gleaming gold in the dim firelight. Her breath caught, he shifted closer, and something primal stirred in her chest, a mixture of fear and awe, of longing she could not name. The wolf lowered his head to the floor, but the golden glow remained in his eyes, steady and unwavering. Leora's fingers itched to reach out, yet she hesitated. She felt that if she touched him now, something irreversible might occur. That night, she slept with her back against the wall. The wolf curled beside her blanket. Every so often, she felt his presence stir, the faint vibration of life and something more, something beyond explanation. She could not shake the sense that Ashar was no ordinary wolf. The following morning, she awoke to find him gone. Panic surged through her. She called his name, her voice trembling, and ran outside into the soft morning mist. Then, from the shadows of the trees, he emerged, moving with a fluidity that seemed almost human. He approached her, limping slightly but with pride, and stopped just short of her. His eyes burned gold again, and for the first time, he made a sound that was neither growl nor whine, a low, resonant note that seemed to hum in her very bones. Leora froze. She had no words, no spell, no charm to describe what she was seeing. Ashar, blind and yet seeing, wounded and yet commanding, claimed her attention fully. A wind stirred the leaves, and Leora felt a strange shiver of fate run through her. She knew, in the core of her being, that this wolf was bound to her in ways she did not yet understand. Something ancient, something powerful, had marked him, and in return, she felt herself marked as well, drawn into a story far greater than her quiet life in the forest. Ashar circled her slowly, and when he stopped, he lowered his head, letting his golden eyes meet hers fully. It was a challenge and an invitation, a promise and a warning. Leora's heart raced, her hands trembling. She wanted to speak, but words failed her. The moment stretched, long and electric, until at last Ashar let out a soft, almost human sigh. Then he turned and disappeared into the misty trees, leaving her standing alone, heart pounding and mind racing. She knew one thing with terrifying clarity. Her life had changed. Forever. She had rescued a creature. Yes, but the creature had chosen her, and deep in her heart, she understood that their bond had only just begun. As she returned to her hut, Ashar's golden eyes burned in her memory. She whispered to herself, a tremor in her voice, "I don't know what you are, but I will not let you face the world alone." The forest seemed to hold its breath around her. Somewhere in the distance, a howl echoed, not a cry of fear, but of possession, and in that sound, Leora felt both danger and promise. She could not yet see what lay ahead, but she knew, with a certainty that shook her soul, that Ashar's destiny and hers were entwined. And so, the healer and the blind wolf waited, each in their own way, for the dawn that would change everything. The forest was quieter now, but the weight of the previous night's events lingered in Leora's mind. She could not shake the image of Ashar's golden eyes, glowing like molten sunlight in the mist. Every shadow seemed alive with possibility, every rustle of leaves a whispered warning. Her hands trembled slightly as she prepared breakfast, her thoughts returning again and again to the wolf who had chosen her. Days passed, and Ashar did not return to her hut immediately. Leora tended to her herbs and potions as usual, but an unease settled over her, as if the forest itself were holding its breath. On the third morning, she found him at the edge of the clearing, standing tall despite the lingering limp from his wound. His eyes shone golden in the early sunlight, steady and aware. "You came back," she whispered, kneeling to meet him halfway. He watched silently, his massive body tense yet calm. There was something different about him today. The intelligence in his gaze seemed sharper, almost human. Leora could feel it in the air. The forest recognized him as more than a wolf. and perhaps so did she. For weeks, she cared for him with the same patient tenderness, cleaning his wounds, feeding him, and speaking softly. Every day, the bond between them deepened, though it was neither simple nor safe. Ashar was still wild, and she had to tread carefully, earning his trust without overstepping the invisible boundary that separated his nature from hers. Yet there were moments when he would nuzzle her hand or tilt his head in understanding, and she would feel an inexplicable warmth bloom in her chest. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky with streaks of crimson and gold, Ashar did something she had never seen before. He rose on his hind legs, stretching taller than any wolf should be able to, and stepped forward until he was mere inches from her face. His golden eyes burned like embers, and in that moment, she felt the raw weight of his gaze. "You see me," he said, and though the words were soft, they carried a power that made the hair on her arms rise. Leora froze, her heart pounding. It was not a dream. Ashar's voice was real, low and resonant, vibrating through the air and into her bones. I see you," she whispered back, though her voice shook. "I don't understand. How can you speak?" He tilted his head slightly, as if amused by her fear and wonder. "I have always spoken," he said. "But you are the first to hear." A shiver ran through Leora. The bond she had sensed was no longer a simple connection between a healer and a wounded animal. There was something ancient and powerful at play, something tied to the very essence of Ashar. He had not always been this way. There were hints of a past that stretched far beyond the forest, a history filled with betrayal, magic, and a curse that had left him in this form. "I don't know what to do," Leora admitted, her fingers trembling as she reached toward him. Ashar did not move away. Instead, he lowered his massive head, letting her hand brush against his fur. The contact was electric, sending warmth up her arm and into her heart. "Do you trust me?" he asked, his voice deep, echoing like distant thunder. Leora hesitated. Every instinct told her caution, yet every beat of her heart urged her forward. I trust you," she said finally. He seemed to nod, though his expression was impossible to read. "Then you must prepare. The world outside this forest is not safe for you or for me." That night, Leora could not sleep. Ashar lay beside her, massive and protective. Yet there was a tension in his body that spoke of battles she could not see. She felt him stir in the darkness, and a faint golden glow flickered from his eyes. Her heart raced. A mix of fear and anticipation died in her dreams. The world shifted. She saw Ashar as a man, tall and proud, with golden eyes that mirrored the wolf's. He walked through a castle of stone and shadow, corridors empty except for whispers of betrayal. She felt the weight of his pain, the loneliness of centuries, and the fire of anger that had been chained within him. She woke with a gasp, the memory of his human form vivid in her mind, and found Ashar staring at her from the edge of the bedroll. "You saw," he said, his voice calm but heavy. "You saw who I was, and who I am becoming. I don't know if I understand," she whispered, her fingers clutching the edge of the blanket. "How did this happen to you?" He hesitated, then let out a low, rumbling sigh. "Long ago, I was a prince. I had a life, a crown, and a people I loved. But jealousy and sorcery destroyed all of it. A spell was cast upon me, a curse to live as a wolf until I found the one destined to break it. Until I found you." Leora's chest tightened. The weight of his words pressed on her, a mix of sorrow and awe. She had expected a wild creature, a beast to care for, but she had never imagined the depth of his story. The centuries of pain and longing hidden behind those golden eyes. "You're human inside," she said softly, reaching for him again. He lowered his head slightly, letting her touch him. "Yes," he said, voice low, "and I am lost without you. Your presence, it calls to something within me I thought had died long ago. Your hands, your heart, they awaken me." The days grew longer, and their bond strengthened. Leora found herself speaking to Ashar as one might speak to a confidant, sharing memories and dreams, fears and desires. And in return, he shared glimmers of his past, moments of joy and betrayal, battles fought in shadow, and a loneliness that had lasted lifetimes. She learned that caring for him was not only a matter of healing his body, but also soothing the pain of a soul trapped in a form that was both familiar and alien. But the world beyond the forest was not idle. Villagers began to speak of a strange wolf seen near the edges of town, enormous and with eyes that glowed like molten gold. They whispered of magic, of curses, and of danger. Leora felt the weight of their fear, and she knew that one day someone would come looking for Ashar. I must be ready, she told herself, her fingers brushing over his fur as he lay near the fire. I must be strong for him, for both of us, and Ashar seemed to sense it. He nuzzled her hand, golden eyes shining with an intensity that made her heart ache. For a moment, it was just the two of them, the healer and the wolf, bound by something deeper than understanding. One evening, as the moon rose high and painted silver across the forest, Ashar did something that made Leora's breath catch. He rose on his hind legs, taller than she had ever seen, and stepped forward until their faces were close. The golden glow in his eyes intensified, and for the first time, she felt the undeniable pull of destiny. You are mine, he said, voice low and unwavering. I do not understand it fully, but the bond is ancient. You are the one who awakens me. Leora's hands froze in midair. Fear, wonder, and longing battled within her. I don't know what that means, she whispered. He lowered his massive head, letting her feel the warmth and weight of him. It means, he said softly, that whatever comes, we face it together. The words sent a shiver down her spine. She had lived her life in solitude, content with the quiet rhythm of herbs, potions, and the forest. Yet now, everything had changed. The wolf who had entered her life, blind and wounded, had awakened something ancient and powerful, and she could not turn away. That night, she slept lightly, half in wonder, half in fear. Every sound of the forest made her pulse quicken, and in the darkness, Ashar shifted beside her, golden eyes flickering even in the shadows. She felt his presence as keenly as her own heartbeat, and somewhere deep inside, she knew that the days ahead would be filled with danger, magic, and a bond that neither time nor curse could sever. And in that quiet, silver-lit forest, Leora understood that her life had changed forever. The healer and the blind wolf were no longer separate. They were bound, not by fear, not by chance, but by fate itself. The forest had grown darker, the shadows deeper as autumn crept into the woods. Leora felt the chill in the air, though it was nothing compared to the unease stirring in her heart. Since Ashar had spoken to her and revealed the fragments of his human past, nothing about their life together was simple anymore. Every glance from him, every flicker of gold in his eyes, reminded her that she had been pulled into something far larger than herself. Ashar moved differently now, less like a wolf and more like a being caught between two worlds. When he ran through the trees, his strides were powerful and graceful, almost unnatural. At night, he would lie beside her, his head resting on her lap, and she could feel the subtle warmth of his human heartbeat beneath his fur. It was mesmerizing, yet terrifying. The bond between them deepened, tethered by unspoken understanding, yet strained by the knowledge that the world outside their forest was not theirs to ignore. One morning, as mist curled around the ancient oaks, Leora noticed Ashar lingering near the edge of the clearing, staring into the distance. His golden eyes gleamed, and a low growl rumbled in his chest, not in anger, but in warning. Something approached. Leora's heart tightened. They are coming, he said softly, voice like distant thunder. The ones who seek to harm me or what I have become. Her hands clenched instinctively. Who are they? She asked, but Ashar only shook his head. I cannot tell yet, he admitted. But you must be ready. They will not hesitate. Leora swallowed hard. She had healed wounded animals before, faced wild beasts in the forest, but this was different. Ashar was not just a wolf. He was something ancient, something powerful, and now, those who feared or hated him would come for him and for her. The first sign came that night. A rustling at the forest's edge, sharp and deliberate, set her nerves on edge. Ashar rose, body tense, ears twitching. The golden glow of his eyes cut through the darkness. Leora's pulse quickened as she realized she could feel his emotions. as clearly as if they were her own alertness, caution, anger, and a protective hunger. "Stay behind me," he warned, stepping closer. Body low and ready, the figures emerged from the mist, cloaked in shadows. The villagers had grown bold, their fear manifesting as aggression. They carried torches and crude weapons, shouting warnings and curses. Leora's breath caught. She had hoped to shield Ashar from the world, to keep him safe in her forest. But now the danger was here. Ashar's form shifted slowly, his muscles coiling like springs. For a moment, he looked more wolf than ever, yet there was a grace, a human intelligence in his movements that made him appear almost otherworldly. The villagers faltered, unsure of the enormous creature that stood before them. "Stand back," Leora cried, stepping forward, hands raised. "He will not harm you." But fear had already taken hold. One man swung a torch carelessly, and the firelight glinted off the blade of a crude spear. Ashar's golden eyes flared, and in that instant, the forest seemed to hold its breath. He let out a low, resonant growl, a sound that vibrated through the ground and into the villagers' hearts. Their courage faltered, and they stepped back. Wide-eyed, Leora moved closer. Placing her hand on Ashar's fur, she felt the tension radiating from him, the danger and power intertwined. "Ashar," she whispered, "please. You don't have to hurt them." He tilted his head, as if considering her words. "They do not understand," he said. "And yet, I will not allow them to harm you." Before she could respond, a sudden movement from the trees caught her eye. A shadow shifted, faster than any human could move. Ashar stiffened, ears forward. From the darkness, a figure emerged, not a villager, but someone older, taller, cloaked in dark robes. There was a presence about them, a chill that seemed to seep into the air. The curse must be ended, the figure said, voice like ice. And the wolf must be claimed, before he brings ruin. Ashar bared his teeth, golden eyes blazing. Leora could feel his human anger rising, a deep, ancestral fury that trembled in his chest. "You will not touch her," he growled. The figure raised a hand, and a swirl of shadows rose from the ground. Curling toward Ashar, he leapt forward, faster than thought, and the shadows scattered before him as if repelled by some unseen force. The villagers screamed, stumbling backward, and Leora realized the forest itself seemed to respond to Ashar, protecting him, warning them, alive with his power, breathless. She whispered, "Who are you?" The figure's eyes glinted. "One who seeks balance, one who knows the curse's full weight." Ashar's ears twitched. "She cannot be harmed," he said firmly, body coiled, ready to spring. "I claimed her. She is mine." Leora's pulse raced. The words hung in the air, and she felt the strange, overwhelming pull of destiny in them. She had always known that Ashar was different, but hearing him declare their bond aloud, hearing him claim her with such certainty, sent a thrill through her that she could neither understand nor resist. The figure moved back, studying them both. "The bond is strong," they said, voice low. "Stronger than many could hope for. Yet the curse lingers. The wolf is more than he seems, and he will awaken fully only with the one who heals him." Ashar's golden eyes softened, and he nudged her gently. "You are that one," he said. "Do you understand? Without you, I am nothing but shadow and fury." Leora felt tears prick her eyes. She had never imagined herself part of something so extraordinary, yet she realized, in that moment, that her life had been leading to this. Every herb she had crushed, every wound she had tended, every lonely night she had spent in the forest had been preparation. I will help you," she whispered. "I will not leave you." The figure nodded once, then turned, disappearing into the shadows from which they had come. Silence settled over the forest once more, though it was a tense, expectant quiet. The villagers had fled, muttering warnings and fear, leaving Leora and Ashar alone in the mist. Ashar lowered his head, resting it lightly against her shoulder. "The world will not be kind to us," he said softly. "There are those who fear what they do not understand, those who will try to take me, or you." Leora's fingers twined in his fur. "Then we face them together," she said. Her voice was steady, though her heart pounded. "I do not care what comes. We will face it, Together, for the first time, Ashar let out a sound that was neither growl nor wolfish cry. It was deep and human, almost a sigh of relief vibrating through her chest. The bond between them, once fragile and uncertain, had solidified into something undeniable, a partnership, a connection that transcended fear and form. That night, Leora could not sleep entirely. She lay awake, listening to the soft rustle of the trees, feeling Ashar's breathing against her back. She imagined him fully human, yet powerful and untamed, and the thought sent both fear and longing through her. He was more than a wolf, more than a curse, and more than a protector. He was a soul intertwined with hers, a being whose destiny could not be separated from her own. And in the quiet hours before dawn, she understood a truth she could not yet say aloud. She did not just care for him. She needed him, not only for what he was, but for what they could become together. Ashar stirred, golden eyes opening slightly, and nudged her hand. She reached out instinctively, touching his fur, feeling the warmth and strength beneath her fingers. "You are mine," he whispered again, and this time she understood the full weight of it. Not a threat, not a demand, but a promise of bond forged by fate, tempered by struggle, and destined to endure. As the first light of morning spilled through the mist, Leora looked into his golden eyes and felt the forest itself pulse with life, echoing the truth that had become clear. Whatever came next, whatever danger or challenge, they would face it together. And the world, dark and uncertain as it might be, would have to reckon with the power of their connection. For the first time, she did not feel afraid. She felt alive. The forest felt alive that morning, though the air was heavy with tension. Ashar lay close to Leora, his golden eyes watching every movement, ears twitching at the slightest sound. He had not slept much, and neither had she. The encounter with the cloaked figure had shaken them both. There was a knowledge in his gaze that unsettled her. He knew the dangers were far from over. "Leora," Ashar said, voice low and steady, "the curse that holds me is older than this forest, older than the kingdoms themselves. If we are to be safe, you must understand what binds me. Only then can we survive what is coming." She nodded, brushing her fingers over his fur. "Tell me everything," she whispered. "I need to know." Ashar's golden eyes softened as he recounted the story. "I was once a prince, beloved by my people, but a sorcerer, jealous of my power and my lineage, cast a spell upon me. He transformed me into this form, a wolf, blind and hunted so that I would live in isolation and despair. The curse was not just punishment. It was a challenge meant to break me entirely. But there is hope. The curse is tied to one thing, a bond with my fated mate. Without you, Leora, I remain trapped. With you, I can awaken fully, regain my strength, and face what was taken from me." Leora listened, heart pounding. The weight of his words pressed on her chest, yet she felt a strange strength flowing through her. I will help you," she said. "I don't know how, but I will not leave you. We'll face this together." Ashar's ears twitched, and a low hum rumbled from his chest, a sound she could feel as well as hear. "Your presence alone awakens what the sorcerer tried to bury. But the world outside the forest is dangerous. Those who fear me or seek to control the power I hold will come, and they will not stop until they succeed or until we are gone." The tension in the forest tightened, wrapping around them like a living thing. Leora rose and stepped to the edge of the clearing, looking out over the misty trees. The wind carried distant shouts and the sound of hooves on the earth. Hunters or worse? She could not tell yet. "Stay close," Ashar said. He shifted, body coiled, golden eyes sharp and unyielding. "I will protect you, but you must be ready to act with me. You are stronger than you know." For the next days, Leora and Ashar trained in subtle ways. She learned to anticipate his movements, to speak without words, to sense the flicker of his wolf instincts beneath his growing human awareness. And he, in turn, began to trust her more fully, letting his human consciousness guide his actions alongside his wolf instincts. Their connection deepened beyond words, beyond understanding, to something primal and undeniable. Then, one evening, the danger arrived in full force. A shadow moved at the edge of the forest, a figure taller and more imposing than any human. cloaked in dark robes that seemed to swallow the light. The wind shifted, carrying a chill that made Leora's skin prickle. She grasped Ashar's fur, and he stiffened, every muscle coiled for attack. "You should not have come here," Ashar said, voice low and dangerous. "Leave now, or face what you cannot control." The figure laughed, a sound cold and hollow. "You cannot hide, wolf. The curse will consume you unless you accept your fate. And she is part of it, whether you will it or not," Ashar growled, golden eyes flaring. "I claimed her. She belongs with me." The figure's eyes gleamed beneath the hood. Bold words. Let us see if they hold in the fire of destiny. Suddenly, shadows erupted from the ground, twisting and writhing like serpents. Ashar leapt forward, moving with a speed and grace that blurred the line between man and wolf. Leora stumbled but caught herself, holding tight to his fur as he pivoted and deflected the first wave of darkness. The air hummed with energy, charged and dangerous, and Leora could feel her pulse matching the rhythm of Ashar's heartbeat. "You can do this," Ashar whispered, brushing past her to shield her. "Trust yourself. Trust me." Leora's hands shook, but she drew upon the herbs she had carried, tossing pouches of powder into the air. The sparks from the mixture seemed to disrupt the shadows, creating light and space for them to move. Ashar moved in perfect synchrony with her, a predator and protector in harmony. They fought through the night, forest alive with movement and sound. Ashar's golden eyes guided them, instincts and intelligence merging in a dance of survival. Leora began to understand something remarkable. The bond they shared amplified their abilities, their courage, their perception. She was no longer simply a healer. She was a partner, a force that could shape the outcome by the first light of dawn. The shadows had receded, retreating into the depths of the forest. Ashar collapsed beside Leora, breathing hard. But there was a glow in his golden eyes that had not been there before, a quiet triumph. Tempered by exhaustion. "You were amazing," Leora said, brushing her hands over his fur. I didn't think I could do it, but with you were always stronger than you realized," Ashar said softly. "The bond we share, it makes us more than the sum of our parts. And soon, you will see how deep it goes." Days passed after the encounter, and the forest began to return to its quiet rhythm, though the tension never fully left. Leora could feel Ashar's human consciousness growing stronger, his instincts balanced by the bond they shared. She also began to notice subtle changes in herself, the confidence to act, the courage to face threats, and a sense of destiny intertwining with her own life. One night, as they rested by the fire, Ashar lifted his head and gazed into her eyes. "The curse will not break easily," he said. "There is a ritual, one that will require both of us, and it will test the strength of our connection. You must be ready to face what is inside me, and what is inside yourself." Leora felt a chill, though her heart thumped with anticipation. "I will face it," she said. "Whatever comes, we face it together." He lowered his head again, nuzzling her gently. "You are my anchor," he whispered, "and soon you will see the truth of what that means." The following days were filled with preparation. Leora gathered herbs, studied the ancient symbols she found in the hidden corners of the forest, and trained herself to react with Ashar in unison. Each day, their bond strengthened, and Ashar's human consciousness became more fluid, more capable of controlling his wolf instincts, and yet the sense of danger never fully lifted. The cloaked figure had warned them, and the forest itself seemed to murmur of coming trials. Every rustle of leaves, every shadow that moved too quickly, reminded Leora that the world outside their secluded clearing was not forgiving. Then, one evening, as the blood-red moon rose above the trees, a whisper of magic stirred in the air. Ashar stiffened, golden eyes flaring with recognition. "The time is near," he said. "The curse will demand its final test, and you are the key." Leora's breath caught. She had always known her care for him mattered, but now the weight of destiny pressed down like the night sky. "I will not fail you," she said, voice firm, though fear churned inside her. He stepped closer, the golden glow in his eyes bright and unwavering. "You cannot fail," he said, "because this bond, it is stronger than any curse, any magic, any shadow. Whatever comes, we face it together. And when it is done, we will emerge as one. The forest seemed to shiver in agreement, the wind carrying the scent of ancient power. Leora felt the pull of fate, a current she could neither resist nor fully understand. She touched Ashar's fur, feeling warmth, strength, and something deeper, something eternal. As the red moon rose higher, they stood side by side, ready for what was to come. Whatever the curse demanded, whatever trials awaited, they would face it together. And in that moment, Leora understood the truth fully. She was no longer simply a healer. She was the mate, the anchor, the key to a destiny that had been written long before she was born. And Ashar was no longer just a wolf. He was a being of shadow and light, human and beast, bound by love, trust, and fate to the woman who had healed not just his body, but his soul. The night was deep and still, yet it thrummed with power. The blood-red moon hung low over the forest, casting long, eerie shadows that twisted across the trees. Leora stood beside Ashar, her hands gripping his fur, her heart pounding with anticipation. The final trial had come, the moment that would decide whether the curse that had bound him for centuries would finally be broken, or whether darkness would claim them both. Ashar's golden eyes gleamed, reflecting the crimson moonlight. He had shifted partially into his human form, tall and strong, though the familiar fur still clung to his arms and shoulders. The duality of his nature pulsed around him like energy, wild and yet controlled. Leora could feel it in every fiber of her being, the sheer force of him, tempered by trust, and bound to her by something ancient and eternal. The forest itself is alive tonight, Ashar said, his voice low but resonant. It will guide us, protect us, but it will also test us. You must be ready, Leora. The trial is as much yours as mine. She nodded, gripping his arm. I am ready. I will not leave you. A low hum echoed through the trees, vibrating through the earth beneath their feet. Shadows rose from the ground like living smoke, twisting and writhing around them. Leora's pulse quickened, but she did not flinch. Ashar's presence was a constant anchor, a golden beacon of safety and strength. Stay close, he whispered. Trust in our bond. We are stronger together. As the shadows surged toward them, Ashar moved first, leaping with a grace that blurred the line between wolf and human. Leora followed instinctively, her hands tracing the runes she had drawn in the soil earlier, casting herbs and powders into the air. Sparks of light erupted, illuminating the dark shapes, pushing them back. The forest seemed to respond to their unity, guiding them, giving them space and protection. You are the light that awakens me, Ashar said, golden eyes blazing. Without you, I cannot survive this. With you, I can face anything. Leora's hand shook, but determination steadied her. Then we face it together, she said. The shadows recoiled at his words, and a deep voice echoed through the clearing. So, the wolf has found his mate, the one who can awaken him fully. The cloaked figure stepped from the darkness, their eyes gleaming with cold intent. Do you think your bond is enough? Do you think love alone can break centuries of magic and wrath? Ashar's jaw tightened. It is enough, he said, and you will see it. The figure raised their hands, and the shadows surged again, faster and more violent. Ashar moved like a storm, limbs a blur, golden eyes cutting through darkness. Leora followed, her powders and charms igniting bursts of light, her courage guiding every step. Together, they moved in a rhythm born of trust and bond. Instincts intertwined, forming a force neither the figure nor the shadows could easily overcome. You are stronger than I imagined, the cloaked figure said, voice low and reverent, almost surprised. But this is the heart of the curse. It will demand more than strength, it will demand truth. You must face what lies within you, wolf, and you, mate. Ashar's body stiffened, his golden eyes flicking to Leora. Together, he whispered, whatever it asks, we face it together. The shadows recoiled again, forming a swirl around them. And then, with sudden force, they pressed inward. Leora felt herself pulled, as if the darkness sought to separate them, to test the bond that had grown between them. Panic rose, but she reached for Ashar, touching him, feeling the warmth of his golden light, the certainty of his trust. I am not afraid, she said aloud. We are together. We are stronger than this. Ashar's roar echoed through the forest, and the golden glow in his eyes flared brighter, spilling across the clearing, scattering the shadows in waves of light. The darkness shrieked and recoiled, then retreated, leaving only the cloaked figure standing. Watching silently, you have faced the trial, the figure said finally. And yet, one final step remains. The wolf must choose fully, and the mate must give herself completely to the bond. Only then will the curse be broken. Ashar looked at Leora, golden eyes soft and filled with unspoken emotion. Do you trust me? He asked, voice gentle, almost human. She swallowed, heart racing, and placed her hand over his. I trust you with everything, she said. I am with you, fully. His form shimmered in the moonlight, shifting, growing taller, more human, yet still imbued with the essence of the wolf. Golden eyes held hers, unwavering and warm. The bond between them pulsed like a living thing, and the forest itself seemed to vibrate with approval. I accept this, Ashar said, voice rich and strong. I am no longer just a wolf, trapped by curse and shadow. I am the being I am meant to be, and you are my anchor, my mate, my equal in all things. The cloaked figure raised their hands one last time, then slowly lowered them. It is done, they said. The curse is broken. You have faced truth, trust, and unity. The wolf awakens fully, and the bond is sealed. Golden light erupted from Ashar, flowing outward in waves, washing over the forest, over Leora, over everything around them. The shadows dissolved, leaving nothing but the quiet hum of life returning to the trees. The air smelled of earth, of herbs, and of something ancient and enduring. Ashar shifted fully, standing before her now as a man, tall, strong, and commanding. Yet every movement held a grace and gentleness that reminded her of the wolf she had cared for. His golden eyes met hers, and in them she saw all the trust, all the longing, all the love that had grown between them. You did it, she whispered, reaching up to touch his face. You are free. He smiled, a slow, radiant smile that made her chest ache. We did it, he said. We are free, not just from the curse, but from fear, from doubt. Together, we are stronger than anything that could come. The bond pulsed between them, a living connection, unbreakable and eternal. Leora felt it deep within her heart, a warmth and certainty she had never known. She realized then that she had not only healed him physically, but had awakened a part of him that had been lost for centuries. And in return, he had awakened something in her, a courage, a purpose, and a love that would last beyond time itself. The forest around them seemed to sigh, leaves rustling in a gentle breeze, as if acknowledging the change. The air shimmered with the remnants of the magic that had bound Ashar, now transformed into something bright and sustaining. Ashar reached for her, taking her hands in his. We have faced the darkness together, he said. And now, the future is ours. Whatever it holds, we face it side by side. You are my mate, my anchor, my destiny. Leora felt tears prick her eyes, but they were tears of joy, relief, and wonder. And you are mine, she said softly, always. Whatever comes, I am yours. He drew her close, and for a moment, time seemed to pause. The forest, the moon, the stars, all of it seemed to hold its breath. Two souls, bound by fate and courage, by love and trust, stood together at the threshold of a new life. The red moon faded slowly, replaced by the soft light of dawn. Birds began to stir. The air smelled of earth and herbs, and the world felt renewed. Leora and Ashar stood together, side by side, golden eyes and human heart, wolf instincts and courage intertwined. They had faced the curse, faced the world, and emerged stronger, their bond unbroken, an eternal dot as they walked back toward her hut, the first rays of sunlight brushing the treetops. Leora felt a sense of peace she had never known. The trials, the shadows, the fear, they were all behind them, and ahead lay a future full of possibility, trust, and love that was as deep and wild as the forest itself. Ashar paused, looking at her with those golden eyes, now soft and warm. No matter what comes, he said, voice steady, we face it together, Always, Leora smiled, brushing her fingers over his hand. Always, she echoed. And in that single word, she felt the power of their bond, the strength of their courage, and the certainty of a love that had conquered centuries of darkness. The forest seemed to hum with life, sunlight dancing on leaves, the world awakening around them. And for the first time, Leora realized that she was no longer alone. She had found her mate, her partner, her equal, and together they could face anything. And so, with golden eyes and steady hearts, they walked forward into the light, the forest behind them, the future wide and endless before them. Their story was no longer one of curses and shadows, but of love, trust, and destiny fulfilled.